Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday. It's March the 6th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And big sell-off today, big downtrend. Uh, really nice trend, to be honest. It wasn't obvious. It was going to be. I mean, it was. This was not unexpected at all. This is if you measure this first leg down, you're expecting. Odds are, if we turn down without going back to the top, it's not going to be a range day, and you're probably going to get a measured leg down. You can see we got that to the tick, a little correction, but then it continued on. Um, it was really hard to figure that out until we turned down here and started making this down. And again, it wasn't so unexpected for this, but once you got this down here, you got to get that trend line and you pull it down. And where does it go till you get the first really? We tried to bounce here, but you didn't get a really strong bounce until here. And even then, it's not a real strong one, but it's enough to where you're expecting one. Um, and really, what you end up getting is almost another measured leg down. We didn't quite get there. I think it was pretty much overdone by that time. But this was a big sell-off, big trend. Once you realize it's just going lower and lower and lower, especially if you can find this bigger channel, just look for a chance to get short and take it. I mean, you got to be careful with that up in here because this was the overnight low, and until we break below that, this is looking like a range day, and that's what I really thought we were going to get. You do suspect that there's a possibility you get this measured leg down, um, but if we never turn down and we keep going higher, you're looking at probably a range day. And so, when you're right here during the day, um, that's what you got to be thinking when this is bouncing up. And I want to talk about this trade right in here. I got a couple of different emails on it, and I could see how you could get tricked right there, and we'll talk about that. I'll get this error out of the way. But let's back out, talk about the trades, tell you what I saw. Um, we had a nice failed second entry long here, nice short setup. Quick, easy move. Any runners would have been good, and you could have ridden this as far down as you want. And then you get notice this new low, first entry, pullback, second entry, another failed second. It went out the top first, then goes out the bottom. I like that for a short. We've got that trend line working down. It was confirmed here, and it's still holding, and we get a new low. I don't think you want to enter here without another trap or something, and makes a new low, and then it reverses. But notice that if you draw this off the high, well, you never grab the line you want to grab with this thing when you get a bunch of them on there. But you can see that's working down there, and that's the first break of it. I got an email from a few people, and they didn't have it. They had it drawn a little different, and they had it. I don't know if maybe they drew it. I don't know why I can't get a line to attach here. They had it drawn more like that, and I can see that. But notice how this one doesn't touch when you do it that way. And let's just see how it touches on the bottom side. It looks okay on the bottom side. You could live with that on the bottom. And it really doesn't look bad on the top, but why did it turn down here without getting over to it? That would be my question. Let's just see if you could play with it any more. You can draw it more down there, but you really still don't get a. Yeah, you could draw it right along that, and you don't get a break there. So um, this would be the first break then. So really, the only thing you got to go by, other than this trend line working down, but generally when you're working off the highs or the lows, you want to get up at the very high or the first few bars or something. Um, and so really the only way you can get it is off that first two closes there. And like I said, you could draw it a little higher. Um, so I could see where you could get caught up there. That's the way I drew mine, and that kept me on the right side. But regardless, you got to draw this trend line working up. There's probably a shorter term one, maybe working up there, and you got a break and a high. Uh, but But really, if you draw it right across those first couple and pull it down, you got to be concerned about that because there's some reason it's turning down across that top right up there. And that would be the only thing that might keep you out of this one. The pattern itself looks pretty good. Pull back, new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It's not a perfect signal bar, but it's close enough that could have closed on its low just as easy. So I could see how you could get fooled right there. This is what I do a lot of times on these corrections like this. I will wait for a second entry off of the top rather than, and this is supposed to be blue right here, rather than counting off the lows. And that way you don't get trapped like this. Just like right here, this is not one I would take, but notice if you took the first entry, it pulls back, and then you get the second entry, and then it takes off. So take your second entry off the highs versus off the lows. Now, if it's a real strong trend and you've been trending down like this, just take every entry you get that looks good. But until you know it's a strong trend, this is what will happen. The market makes a low and it reverses, and this is your overnight. Actually, your overnight low. Yeah, I think that's your overnight low. Let me just double check that before I tell you that. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was right on this bar right here or here, but it's right there. So that's your overnight low. And so there's a chance that this could be a range today, and that's going to be the low for a while until we at least test it again. So draw those short-term trend lines, because both of the people that sent me their chart, there was no short-term trend line. They just took a second entry short right there, assuming they had it right over here. And I'm not saying theirs is wrong and mine's right, but this is how I would have drawn mine. And look how you get the first two swings and you get confirmation right there. If you drew it the other way, you don't get confirmation of down here. Let's just try that one more time. Drawing it a little bit higher. And it never really touches that line right here. So why did it turn down right there? That would be my first question. And so you don't really get confirmation until way down here. And again, I guess it fits all right there. I mean, I could live with it. I mean, both the charts I looked at, their trend channel looked okay. It didn't look, I mean, I can understand how you got trapped there, but not much else you can say about it other than that. So that's a good reason. Again, draw your short-term trend lines, and when you've had a big move like this and you haven't had a correction for a while, wait on the second entry off the high. Yeah, you might miss one from time to time. But that's just the way it goes. So when this failed and went lower here and bounced right off that trend line, I liked going long again. And it actually came back and gave you another entry there, and you could have entered again and or added on, actually. So, and then you get your break, and this is supposed to be blue too. And the only reason that you can take these longs, somebody sent me an email asking me that today. The only reason you really can take these longs in this downtrend day is because you don't really have this bigger one in place yet. All you've got is this, and it's looking like a range day, and now you got a trend working higher. So you got to go with what you see. And so notice that high, pull back first entry, pull back, and that's a second entry long. I don't think you want to go long above one of these bars, but when you get this big bullish one, just go long above that. Look, that's what it would have looked like at the time. And what would you expect to happen there? You wouldn't have this bigger channel in place. Well, you might, but you wouldn't know for sure if it was really. You can see it bouncing on both sides here. It's acting as resistance. It's acting as support somewhat, but it kind of went back through right there. So regardless, you'd probably be looking for prices to come up here, especially if you see this double channel or this bigger two-tiered. But for now, that's the first break of this channel. And notice the little overshoot first, and then it comes down and breaks. So you're looking for prices to come back up and test this and maybe come up to this line. And unfortunately, it finds resistance there, and it goes into a range. And it's obvious this is a range, so just it's really tempting to go short right there. Um, and there's a possible short that's right there. It's a double top. But I was expecting prices to come up here, so I was a little leery at that point. There's a second entry there, but notice you're finding resistance still, but notice how there's some dojis in there, and this didn't close on its low. It's just not a very good setup. It would have worked, and if you took it, um, you got rewarded for it, but I think it's too risky to even mark it as green. And then it fails out the low side and is still heading back in. Again, I don't think you want to go long here either. You do have two measured legs down, and if you'd had a nice bullish bar, yeah, maybe. And notice how it gets in and comes back and tests it there. So that one was really tempting, but it never could break lower, so I just didn't trust it without some kind of trap. Would have worked. I'm more apt to circle that one as a green one maybe than I'm actually willing to do that. But I'll just be honest, I didn't take it, and I just think it's a little aggressive. This was the one to take. Notice that you get up here. I didn't circle the first entry, but when you get the second entry, just go short, because now you've tested that multiple times, and guess what? It's also coming off the trend line. Another reason. And there's plenty of room. It's a little bitty bar. There's plenty of room to get out before you get here. And it does bounce there. It ticks on through. But when it comes back here, you can either re-enter here or add on if you're still holding that one. And this was the trade right here. This one, it took a few minutes to get going. I almost questioned if I did the right thing. I actually used a limit order because it was such a big bar. And so I was happy to see it come back. But when it closed up that way some, I started to question, hey, did I get in too soon, or was maybe the low a little further down? But it turned on down, and this turned out to be the trade of the day because you were able to ride this. Where do you think prices are going to end up before you get a true bounce? Down at this line, especially when they went right through the midline. And I was expecting it to hit right down in here somewhere, but no, it doesn't hit till way down here. Now, you might have exited here. Wouldn't have been a bad thing to do, because sometimes it doesn't get there. Most of the time it will, and that's what you're looking for. And plus, we already had a measured move right in here, so that was another reason that you might exit there, but you didn't have to. If with all that profit, either take it or you might wait and see what happens. I didn't feel comfortable entering these shorts any past this move down here, but this was a good setup. And then you got a failed second entry long there. And it actually came back and went lower again, so you could have added on again right there. And this is just a breakout pullback short from that little area right there. But you could have added another one right there, or if you didn't enter the first one, you could have entered there because you got that little trap when it broke higher again. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Can't really see it in here. Well, actually, it didn't break higher, but it broke back and touched the trend line and went lower. I thought it broke higher right there, but maybe I'm confusing that with down here. I still think that you possibly could have added on there. That does change it, and that's probably why I didn't circle it. I'm going to leave that one off because I was really confusing that with this trade right here. I noticed you're moving down. There's two legs back, and where does it turn down? Right off your trend line, and you hadn't had a break yet. There's not a lot of room in there. But this thing's really moving, and you don't quite have a measured move yet. It's right off the trend line. It tried twice to go higher back to test this midline, but this little shorter term trend is too strong. It's not the perfect setup. This one really could be green, but I liked it, and I think you want to enter right there. I'm gonna leave it red. This is the one. This one could actually be green. I'm more apt to change that one back. And notice the new low, first entry pullback, second entry. This is a trading range, but notice that failed break in that big bearish bar, and you're probably going to make a new low, and you're probably still headed down to here, and you've got a measured move down to here. So I still like this to the short side for those reasons. If this was a range type day, no way. I would wait and on the breakout pullback short, and you actually got a chance to enter right there. But we already had this break and a couple legs down, so I didn't like that one. Looking back at it, you really could have circled it red. But when you're sitting here looking at it on the hard right side of the chart, and it looks like that, I'm not thinking short at all, but it did go higher and turn and come back down. So you really could have entered there, and I think I'm going to go ahead and circle that one as well because I like that setup. So um, you've almost got enough room to get out before you get down here. You didn't have much room to think about that one. And you definitely could have waited till here, but then you're so close to the low that I just don't know then. It still would have worked. Um, and I don't think at this point you won't even consider buying anything. Um, because this channel's looking, uh, it's looking valid. And this really validated it when it came back and turned down right off the midline. And you can see that's an equal distance. I'll see people send me their chart and they'll have a channel and one side will look like that. Well, you can see that's not equal to that, so that's not valid. They're going to be equal, and they're going to be a equal distance spaced apart, and then when they bounce, they're valid. So keep that in mind because I see that a lot. And then look, it bounced here. The only reason I didn't like this second entry was because, again, you didn't have a break of this little trend line. There's a little channel working up there. And we've actually come off the low, so this is where you might expect a failure. There actually is a second entry short right there that fails, but you can't go long. This has been too big a downtrend, and so I'd be more apt to enter short there than I would be long. Wait on the second entry, and you get it right here. And look at that bearish bar. And then it comes back and gives you another, and you got a little trend line right there, and it comes back. And it breaks higher and turns down. It's like a repeat pattern of the other one we saw over here. And it just goes lower. But I don't think you can, then it's getting too choppy in here. So you just kind of got to wait. And you already got a break and a new low. And it's still working lower. And, of course, then you got another. You can tell this is a strong trend day because you get these little channels and it can never come back and get a retest. Once it turns down, it just takes off like a rocket. I don't think you can enter right there because there's no break. It went right through that EMA. There's all kind of reasons for this thing to be going back up here to the high side. But then you get a first entry, pull back second entry. When you get that failed second entry long, it broke higher, just go short right below that. This is a strong trend. You're just looking for real reasons to enter. And look for a measured move like that one, and that's pretty much what you get right there. These are the days that we long for, and we didn't quite get there, but that's because we bounced on the lower side of the channel. And then that got you into the 2 o'clock hour, but look at it, it's still going. There's no reason that you wouldn't take that short right there. There's lots of repeat patterns in here on the way down, things like that. Once you realize it's a strong trend and we're working lower, just look for double tops, traps, failed second entry longs, anything you can find that's a legitimate entry at the right place. And where's that at? Off the EMA, the trend line, or the midline. And that's what you're looking for. And draw your shorter term ones. And you can see, that's why I didn't mark some of these trades because they're either first entries or they're second entries. Before you've got a break and a retest with a new high. This one I would have been more apt to take because we haven't reached the low yet, but we've reached it here and we ain't even got back to here yet. So this one I would have been much less tempted to take. There's nothing that makes you think that's over right there, and then the bottom just falls out of it. But there's enough people, there's enough selling going on, and this is an obvious strong trend that every time it comes back to here, it just sells off harder until right here, and that's right before the close. So nobody's selling then. But that's what I saw today. Real strong trend. And just remember, on trend days like this, you want to try to get a runner on these days, and it's a lot easier. There's several of them in there. I mean, you could have caught runners all over the place here. Here, here if you took it. But I mean, there's several of them down through here. And once you realize it's a strong trend and it's just going and going and going, try to get a piece of it and hang on to it with a runner. Uh, because that can really, I mean, if you can get one runner that gets you 10 or 15 points, I mean, that really changes your numbers as far as your profit factor. So keep that in mind. Not much else I can say about today. It was just a strong downtrend. It's nice to see some movement again and high volatility. It's going down instead of up, but as day traders, we don't care which way it's going, really. We just want it to move and we want to go with it. So these are the kind of days that you try to get a hold, get you a good buy or sell depending on the direction, and hang on as long as you can. So I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.